wish spirits, giants and bolts of fire that turned into witches, thunderbolts that became human, narration about nahuales that turned into animals and human at the same time, are part of the idiosincrasy of the Chinantecos, natives located in the northwest region of Oaxaca, and that make up the Huautla mountain region that has lasted up to now. There is a large number of reports of beings with extraordinary powers, enchanted places, and magic objects. There are narrations that says, bolt of fire and thunderbolt fell. At the same time, there are others about supernatural beings that were 8 meters in height. Dresses in white, they transform into a ball of fires and disappears. There are countless reports, such as the one by Don Jose Ramos, inhabitant of the town previously mentioned, in which he described that on one occasion he saw one of the fireballs, which was very big. He was very afraid, but nothing happened to him. He added that the smallest was a sorcerer that wanted to kill the largest one. There are also reports that in some places at night, balls of fires emerge. One of the most interesting myths and legends in Mexico is the one about the nahuales, in which in most cases is about the nahuales tigers or snake that sorcerers and witches transform into. The nahuales can be heard, but on occasion they cannot be seen. The nahuales are men and women that through magic practices can transform into animals. The mutation can only take place at night, and it gives an advantage to the one that have the power, because as nahuales, they can cover great distances easily, and since they can attain animal characteristics, they can undertake impossible tasks that the common man cannot do. At this point, I would like to parenthesis on this legend from my country, because last year in the Mufon Symposium that took place in Seattle, Catherine Wilson experienced, in which she narrated very detailed of the same, what caught my attention was the parallelism that I found between the Mexican legends and her experience in the camouflage technique that aliens use when they change into animals, being a polar bear, a dog, or a cat. Therefore, the parallelism of the stories, even though in different places and time, in the nahuales from Mexico and the aliens in the United States, make off a wonder that we can find a vertex that join these two similar stories. Let's for it, the beginning, the contemporary era. I shall start by referring to the first registered observation in this century, and at the beginning the following month after the famous encounter by Kenneth Arnold. The news mentioned that 5 flying saucers were seen in Mexicali and 2 others in Ciudad Juarez. The following year, there are few sighting reports. Nevertheless, it's not until 1950 when the first big flags take place in Mexico. The registered facts were written by UFO writers Donald Cahill, Fran Scully, and Kenneth Arnold himself. The 50s, the births of the amazing. During this lapse, the birth waves continue to happen in Mexico. The most significant are the ones that took place in 1950, 1953, and 1957. During this period, it is worth doing a parenthesis in order to mention that what happened in August 1953. The first Mexican contactee was registered by Don Salvador Villanueva Medina. Mr. Medina becomes a celebrity, and at the same time, his experience has been studied and quoted by renowned foreign investigators, such as Gordon Creighton in his book The Humanoids, and by one of the dean of the worldwide investigator, Don Antonio Rivera, in his book Flying Saucer in Latin America and Spain. We must emphasize one important factor. During that decade, the contactees George Adamski from US 8 and Salvador Villanueva himself became acquainted. One of the best cases happened in 1957, even though it was published 2 months later by the newspaper El Universal Gráfico. On Tuesday, January 7, 1958, the newspaper reported a UFO landing in the fields of San Juan de Aragón. The surprising incident was witnessed by Gilberto Espinosa Garcia. Particularly, that year is outstanding in UFO sightings, especially during the last 2 months. For example, on December 12th, the newspaper La Prensa published on its front page, "National aircraft chased by a fat flying saucer." The story tells that the crew and square passengers watched the object. The visual contact took place between San Luis Potosí and Querétaro. A strange UFO photograph in 1958. A flying cigar was photographed by the astronomer Roberto Orozco Alonso in a farm near Mexico City. This picture is the first to be published in a Mexican newspaper, La Prensa, May 25, 1958. The 60s, the phenomenon boom. There are limited records at the beginning of this decade, and it is not until April 1965 when the maximum UFO waves in Mexico takes place. From that month up to November of the same year, the most amazing cases take place that would hurt the headings and pages in newspapers and magazines day after day, and reaching the apogee in the summer, reaching incredible paroxysmal levels and provoking a huge, uncontrollable psychosis. The records show from the most simple sightings, such as light in the sky, up to landing, crash sites, and contact with extraterrestrial beings. These same events are repeated throughout Mexico, in all the cities, including in many small villages, provoking a huge number of phone calls received by the newspaper, reporting one sighting after another. During the following year, 1966, there is a decrease in UFO report, but from March to May 1967, quite a number of sightings are recorded, but never reached the number reported in 1965. The last year of the decade ended with few recorded cases. The 70s, the UFO phenomenon continues. The next 10 years were very important for Mexico, given that a great number of printed matter with reference to the UFO subject is published in newspapers, magazines, and books, highlighting the following. In July of 1970, one of the most alarming enigmas takes place that to many, if not to all, the researchers of the UFO phenomenon really caught our attention. The filing of the Athena rocket from the USA. The newspaper, El Heraldo de México, published on Saturday, July the 16th, the following news. The Athena is a military secret. Strange circumstances surrounded the rocket and fell and exploded in the state of Durango. There are, from my point of view, various questions in such an event. Why was the rocket direction changed to Mexico? Was it changed intentionally? At the same time, the missile was described as one of the safest until then. When the scientists of the military base in Utah, United States, the Green River Control Center, lost track of Athena, more questions still arise. How did such failure occur, being that only a year before, a very important mission has been culminated successfully, the Apollo program, when the man landed on the moon? There is still the biggest mystery. Why did the rocket stern fall in the famous sailing zone of Durango, Mexico, which is similar to the Bermuda Triangle, since pilots flying over the area report navigational equipment gone haywire? November 3rd, 1973. A flying object was seen over the Cocoyote Resort, as 6:45 p.m. By the Jimenez family, the object was about 250 or 300 meters away from the witnesses. Mr. Jimenez was able to take a couple of pictures, since a second object was too far to be photographed along with the first object. According to the description made by the witnesses, the object has a dark green color, similar to the color seen on military units. The object had the form of a pear, with its vertex looking down toward the ground and showing 5 tentacles surrounding it, that when it moved, it appeared to help these objects fly through the air. Hidalgo El Chico, 1976, a UFO appeared suddenly in the sky and disappeared. One morning of February 29, 1976, the Arredondo family took an incredible photo at 8:30. This photo was taken in a camping site near Mexico City. The witnesses were interviewed separately, and their testimonies were the same. The photograph was analyzed, and the result from a computerized analysis showed that it was a UFO. In 1977, between April the 18th and 23rd, the first International Congress on the UFO phenomenon takes place in Acapulco, Mexico. The promoter, Guillermo Bravo, accomplished to gather the most outstanding researchers from that epoch. Among the participants were from the United States, Allen Hynek, Walter Andrews, John Keel, William Spalding, Ray Stafford, and James Hortak. From France, Jacques Bally. We will have to emphasize that in 1977, there were constant sightings. The first one took place on Monday, April the 4th, when some inhabitants from the various neighborhoods of Mexico City guarantee to have seen 2 flying objects that shine intensely. On July the 29th, same year, a very important event in Mexican ufology takes place. During the shooting of the movie Picardía Mexicana, directed by Abel Salazar, the displacement of 3 flying objects is filmed. The historical take was filmed by Javier Cruz. On Monday, August the 8th, the newspaper El Sol del Mediodía published on its headings, UFO explodes in Zihuatanejo. Witnesses saw the UFO that explodes and shining mass of great size, running shape that flew in a straight line with 2 small groups at its sides. The latter would maneuver as if trying to stop the first. Suddenly, the 2 small groups made a 90-degree turn at lightning speed. On the first day of August 77, the Mexican newspaper began publishing a series of rumors that in a mountain range of Puebla, a flying saucer has crashed on a hill near the Tres Cruces Hill, adjacent with Tezoquispan and the hill La Cañada. The newspaper Novedades report on August the 18th the following. Workers from the Power and Light Company that were working near the location reported that they saw a big shiny metal itself, something like a wing of a plane, and it's casted intensity head up to 50 meters. They also mentioned that they took pictures. Nevertheless, Army personnel confiscated the film. 1978 was also full of UFO reports, of which I shall only mention 2. The newspaper Sotavento related on December the 12th, UFO in Minatitlan, a machine in a form of a chimney. The event was reported by the teachers, parents, and students of Artículo 123 school. It was a tremendous astonishment when they saw a flying chimney take off at great speed until it faded in the infinite. On the 26th of the same month and year, the graphical manager of the newspaper El Nacional, Alfonso Carrillo Vázquez, captured a UFO in the shape of a top with his camera. The sightings caught special attention that in 1991 World Almanac quoted the sighting by Mr. Carrillo in a section that covered the UFO theme. The sightings continue up to the later part of the decade. In 1979, there were countless sighting reports. The first news came on that night of January 10, when Lourdes Guerrero, a journalist, noticed an object that zigzagged in the sky, and it seems not to have a definite flying pattern. The journalist was interviewed by me, and she reported, when it veers to the right, it's casted a red color, and when it veers to the left, it's casted a violet color. The following day, a UFO was sighted in Guadalajara, Jalisco. Description that on Friday, January 22, the newspaper Excelsior reported. Furthermore, a month later, a Morelos newspaper highlighted 30 UFOs over Tepoztlán. During that time, Professor Lorenzo Hernandez from Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz, sent out a cut-off from a newspaper article dated on July 22, where it described the sighting of flying saucer in a petrochemical compound, La Cangrejera. Also in 1990, but in March, in the city of Cárdenas and Luis Potosí, various witnesses confirmed to have seen a small humanoid. The 80s, sightings decrease. This decade marked a decline in UFO sighting in Mexico. Nevertheless, the ones that did take place were important. For example, on May 24th, several witnesses testified that a flying saucer descended in the town of Majolo, Culiacán, Sinaloa, causing a huge suspense. Ovaciones highlight that a fleet of UFO was seen in Monterrey. Two of the flying